India is famous for its diverse culture and celebrations. The country has been a melting pot of numerous languages, each with its own unique richness and historical significance, one of which is Magahi. Sir, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, to begin with, how do you see India as a country with such a rich and diverse culture? So many languages are spoken here. Every language has its own uniqueness and significance.
Thank you, Siddharth, for having me, and I'm delighted to be part of this program. As you know, and as you said, India is a country which is a matter of joy and celebration in terms of its diversity, and across India, so many languages are spoken, so many dialects are used by the people, and that's the strength and beauty of India, that even if you go for a few kilometers, bhasa, what you call bhasa and vani, these they change, the tone changes, the accent changes, though it may be the same language. And Magahi, for example, is one of the most dynamic and living languages of spoken in parts of Bihar, West Bengal, and Jharkhand, and that's also part of this great diversity.
Could you tell us a bit about the cultural significance of Magahi, a language which is very old?
Right. So, see, the evolution of languages in India as it has happened, we have this sequence of or evolution from Sanskrit into Prakrit, and then Prakrit further gets broken down into Abhrans, and Abhrans then become gets broken down further into the modern languages we know. So Magadhi Prakrit was the language of the Buddha and the Mauryan Empire, and later the Gupta Empire. And Magadhi Prakrit, for example, one of the earliest works composed in Magadhi is Theri Gatha, which is the composition by the elderly nuns. And Theri Gatha is even today, if you read the translation, it was written actually in Pali, not in Magadhi Prakrit, but spoken in Magadhi Prakrit. And even today, those translations into English from Magadhi Prakrit, they read as if they have been written yesterday. They sound so contemporary.
Correct.
Also, that when Magadhi Prakrit broke down, at least 6 languages are which we know today. Their family lineage goes to Magadhi Prakrit. And that includes Mathili, Bhojpuri, and Maghi, what I'm talking about. But also Assamese, Uriya, and Bangla or Bengali.
Fool Bahadur is a novel talking about Magahi language. It was published in 1928 by Jainath Pati. What inspired you to translate that novel from Magahi to English?
Well, see, Magahi has a very rich literary tradition. But what you are talking about is the first novel of Magahi, Fool Bahadur, written by Jainath Pati. His full name was Jainath Pati Sahai, from the Nawada district of Bihar. And this novel is based in Bihar Sharif, which is right now the headquarters of Nalanda district. Earlier that place was known as Udantapuri or Udandapuri. And what Jainath Pati writes is his own experiences. He was a Mukhtar. Mukhtars were the lawyers, you can say, or legal officers who had the permission to work as a legal officer after writing an exam. And in this novel, in the first Magahi novel, I mean this is the first available Magahi novel, more precise, because the first novel he had written was called Sunita, but that has been lost.
Okay, so this is considered as the first Magahi novel ever translated into English language.
Correct. So for 100 years, almost 100 years, it has been almost 100 years, and there was no, I mean, obviously only the Magahi speaking people knew, some of them knew about this novel. I personally had no knowledge about that there is a novel called Fool Bahadur that exists in this language, and I discovered it actually. I found it while I was editing the book of Bihari literature, which has literature from 10 different languages spoken in Bihar, translated for the first time into English. So this novel, I found it so interesting because though it's written and published almost 100 years ago, it's absolutely contemporary.
Okay,
it's about the prevalent the corruption in social life in Bihar Sharif during the British times, colonial period. But it seems that that story, there are 4 main characters in the book. Sam Lal, for example, is the Mukhtar, whose ambition is to become a Rai Bahadur. Just to give you Rai Bahadur,
and that's in the British era.
That's in the British era, and Rai Bahadur is the title one gets, for doing good work. It's sort of an honor which is sought after, and Mukhtar Shamlal aims, or his ambition, his lifetime goal is to get the title of Rai Bahadur. And the second character is SDO, who is freshly transferred from Singhbhum, Manbhum district in Jharkhand, right now I think in Jharkhand or West Bengal, Manbhum, and he comes to Bihar Sharif on a posting as a new SDO at Bihar Sharif. His name is Mukhtar Nawab. There is a circle officer, Mr. Singh, whose job is to look after the circle or the block, and there is a courtesan called Nasiban. So these are the 4 main characters of this novel.
Definitely, even I have read it and found it very interesting novel. Published in 1928, although but it feels like that it's just recently written. So talking about the translations, they are in trends very much. What is your opinion on the Hindi literature when it's translated into other foreign languages and also getting accolades on the world stage?
Correct. So see, India's true literature lives in its various languages. So we have not only from Hindi but from Tamil, from Malayalam, from all across, I mean from different Indian languages, novels and poems and short stories being translated into English for the first time. And last year, for example, the number of translations from India, the number of books which were published by independent publishers crossed 100. Into English, and all of these very well produced, very quality, having quality translations. So there is a surge in translations from various Indian languages into English, and earlier translations have been done from Bhojpuri. For example, the first novel from Bhojpuri was translated, Phul Sungi, by Gautam Chaubey, has been translated by him recently, like 3 years ago. And this is the first, not only the first Magahi novel, but also the first Magahi novel to be translated into English. So of course, I mean, I think there's a greater interest in reading the original works written in different languages of India, and not only within India but also abroad. So I think this is a very welcome step that India's real literature, true literature, is getting translated and becoming available across the world.
Okay, and Mr. Abhay, you've also translated books from other languages into English. How difficult was that? What are the challenges that you faced while doing that?
Well, I have translated from Sanskrit, for example. I have translated 2 poems, Khanda Kavya we call, 2 poems of Kalidas, Meghdut and Ritu Samharam and Meghdutam. These were the first translations by a poet, so into English.
Okay.
I mean, most of the earlier translations have been done by scholars and writers and so on. Indologists.
Okay.
There are so many translations of Meghdut, for example.
Okay.
But I thought that I'll do a poetic rendition of Kalidas's 2 poems into English.
Okay.
And of course, it was difficult to transport the true spirit and the imagery of Kalidas, who was active in 5th century actually, into 21st century. But I think when I did the translation, I really enjoyed doing it.
Okay.
And one of the greatest translators from Sanskrit, A.N.D. Haksar, who is also actually from the Foreign Service, was India's ambassadors to many countries.
Okay.
He wrote a very encouraging commentary that these translations which I have done, they give a fresh meaning and perspective to Kalidas's works.
Okay.
So it was really, I mean, it was encouraging, and I think both these translations are now available for people to read.
Okay, so talking about translations of what you did from Sanskrit to English, were you able to portray the same emotion, the same sentiments to the English audience as well?
Right.
What response did you got?
Yes, correct. See, the good thing is that emotions don't change over centuries. Human emotions remain the same. Love remains the same. Loss remains the same. So we experience the same emotions in whatever century we live, or we will face even 2000 years later the same emotions.
Okay.
Until we become biorobots. So that's what that's what Kalidasa is all about.
Yeah.
I mean, he is equally forceful. He today he seems to be a contemporary poet in translation. So I would say that the themes he had chosen, for example, if you look, love and longing, nature, sensuality, all these themes, they remain eternal, and therefore Kalidasa is easy for me to translate into this century.
Okay. Mr. Abhay, what aspects of Magahi literature, specifically if I talk about, you found intriguing if you compare it to the other regional literatures?
Well, Magahi literature particularly has, it has very earthly themes, particularly I have also, while I was editing the book of Bihari literature, I came across a number of short stories written in Magahi, and some of them have become my absolute favorites, in the book. For example, there was one story of a couple who is really old, like they are in their 70s and 80s and very poor. So their whole dream, their dream is to have a blanket in the winter, in very very cold winter in Bihar, and they even dream at night of owning a blanket. And this lady, she earns a living by begging actually, and husband is an invalid. And so this is a story of their tender love, and the husband, dreaming of the blanket, passes away at night. So what I found was this human quality, the human the human touch in these stories. There was one story about today's Yudhishthir, and that touches upon the 5 brothers who are actually in contemporary times. A story by Ravindra Kumar, a fabulous Magahi writer.
Well, that's indeed a intriguing comparison which you're doing right now with us.
Right. So that in that story he I mean, Yudhishthir faces the same situation where his other 4 brothers have, they have died in the sense they are, and he has the ability power to revive them. If he answers the questions, the Yaksha Prashna, about Yaksha Prashna, and he has the so he does that. He faces the same situation and he's able to do the same thing. But in the end, he thinks that if all these brothers would become alive again, whatever property I have, they will divide them.
Okay.
So let them be dead.
Okay. Mr. Abhay, can you share some anecdotes of yours from Bihar, Nalanda, wherein you got inspired by Magahi literature and you thought that I will do something about it, I'll translate or I'll write something in Magahi and I'll promote this language?
Right. So actually, I could not find anything written in Magahi while I was trying to look for Magahi literature. I could not find anything.
Okay. But the people around you, were they speaking Magahi very frequently? Your family members?
Yes, my mother, for example, speaks Magahi to me, and I grew up in Nalanda, in near Rajgir. So everybody speaks in Magahi there. But in the school syllabus, there was nothing of Magahi, so I could not find anything written or read a poem or a short story in Magahi. So what I did, that I wrote a poem actually. Saying that surprised to learn that there is no written poem in Magahi. I run here and there, then sit down to write a poem in Magahi.
Okay.
I listen to the people in the street talking in Magahi, paying attention to their sounds and tones in Magahi. They twitter like birds day and night in Magahi. Even their abuses sound sweet in Magahi. Theek hai is theek hako, acha आ गया is अच्छा आ गेलहू in Magahi. खाना खाए is खाना खेलहू. चाय पिए is चाय पिलहू in Magahi. I go around the town looking for books in Magahi. I return home without finding a written word in Magahi. At home I hear my mother say her prayers in Magahi.
Okay.
हमार बेटा के बुद्धि देहु भगवान. He wants to write a poem in Magahi. So that was when this poem got published. People started writing to me that there are so many poems, so many short stories, so many books written in Magahi. You have no idea. Okay. And that's how the exploration began. And now I have, I'm working with the Nalanda University, the international university which has been founded recently in Rajgir, to have a Magahi library there. And it's a work in progress, and there are already more than 200 books they have collected.
Wow, that's a wonderful initiative by you. And also the pages which you read, I'm sure they're starting of the book, because I read the book a bit, and I know such a polite language, such a beautiful language to hear. You've read so many languages, you've translated so many languages to English. So if I talk about Magahi specifically, was it difficult language to understand and to translate it? Because you hail from there, we can understand that somewhat it could be easy for you. But then for a layman, how do you see this language?
I think Magahi is very, it's not a difficult language. It's very easy to understand. And see, the great thing about Magahi is that it's sort of gender neutral. So I can say pani pibhu, or so you like in Hindi you have to say hawa bahti hai, and so those people, like those who have gender issues, like for example, somebody is speaking Bengali, so there is always this question of whether to use bahti hai ki hawa bahta hai. So in Magahi is the solution, hawa baha hai, so there is no ta or ti, so in a way it's sort of because it's the root of development of these languages, so that's why you have these gender neutral things there. And also I have just written a new book on Nalanda, and I was seeing the contributions of the Siddha poets from Nalanda who have contributed a lot to develop these forms like Doha, Chaupai. All these poetic forms have been developed there by these poets, Siddha poets, and they all use this, proto. I mean, these Apabhransh poetry has all these it's sort of proto words where you don't have these genders. So that's, I think it's easier to learn Magahi than to learn,
any other language, or specifically language. So you've just mentioned that Magahi is very easy, if you're trying to learn it.
Right. Also very, very soft, very polite,
and also very gender neutral.
Right.
Like you just mentioned.
Right. So it's more advanced, you can say.
Okay. More advanced. So there are many translators out there, Mr. Abhay, aspiring translators, I would say, who perhaps have the same mindset as you have. They also want to revive, to preserve the lesser known regional languages.
Correct.
What advice do you give to them?
I would say that do make efforts to do that, because our India's true treasure, literary treasures lie in these languages. I wouldn't call them regional languages. I would call them languages, because they're, each language is sort of, has its own world, has its own universe. So they are equally important for all of us. And as I did, it's a work of passion. I found this, I went out there to look for it. So I would say to the translators that if you have this advantage of knowing two languages, English or any other language, and your mother tongue, your language, then do translate and do try to bring out those works into either Hindi or English or any other language possibly which you are comfortable with. I think there's a saying, there's a quote that it's the translators who make the world literature.
That's a wonderful quote.
So now, Magahi has become part of the, world literature through translation. Such a great novel, which was not known to the outside world till last year. It's here. It's now available.
So how do you see young people engaging with literature?
I see that young people here today, they should read more, because reading is the first step towards engaging with literature. I read all my life. I have been reading since I was in class 4. I remember the first book I picked up was Rashmirathi by Ramdhari Singh Dinkar. And
that's a very famous book.
Yes, and I've never forgotten what I read in class 4th. And that's how we engage with literature. So I would request them to start reading whatever books you get around. Don't worry, start reading. And once you start reading, writing and translation, they all come from this joy of reading, or this curiosity and will to create something new. So once we start reading, that's the foundation of engaging with literature.
You've said that the process, there's a thing in process. You are making a library wherein books from Magahi literature will be there. What else do you suggest, because this is what you are doing, but as far as the entire country is concerned, what advice do you give to preserve this regional language, which is actually developing and creating a greater impact on the minds of youth and for everyone in the country?
We should have libraries. Public libraries are such a
so you're saying more and more libraries.
We need more books and more libraries all across the country. It would be good to have that each village of India can has its own library, either digital or physical. So we should, I have also in the past advocated for a national poetry library, because a country like India should have a national poetry library, which we don't have at this moment. But also we need more libraries, more investment in books, and the role of books in shaping our lives is undervalued. Young people who are now hooked to social media and quick reads on the internet, only find the unknown joy of reading when they start reading. It's something which is much greater than flash reading, which is happening right now on the internet or Instagram, for example.
Okay. With this, we have come to an end of this episode, but thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sparing out your valuable time, and thank you so much for shedding light on the profound impact literature continues to have on youth. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you for having me.